Hello everyone, P-Fun41 here. So today I'm going to talk about my PGA Tour Golf arcade game. Now this is not to be confused with the Golden Tee games, which were made by Incredible Technologies. This is made by Global VR, and it's actually a port of the EA Sports PGA Tour Golf video game. So these were first introduced around 2002, ran up until about 2007, and they were direct competitors to the Golden Tee series games. And they're in similar cabinets, which is why they often get confused. Unfortunately, Golden Tee won out that battle, so these aren't really around that much anymore unless you find the older ones. But I actually prefer these ones over the Golden Tee games, and there's a few reasons why. I actually owned a 2008 Golden Tee Live, and I much prefer these games. They have a better attract mode. It actually would be playing sound right now, except I disabled the sound for this video. You can choose your golfer, which is pretty cool. And it just makes more sense financial wise, because you don't have to play a full 18 or 9 holes or just one hole. You can play just a couple holes if you want to, so it makes a lot more sense from that perspective. So I wasn't actively looking for this game when I got it, just kind of fell into my lap. I needed an arcade monitor for one of my other games, and I found a guy in Orlando who was selling 2 of these PGA Tour games. One of them was complete, one of them was missing the computer, but they both had monitors. I was originally only going to buy one, but he offered me both of them for 150 bucks, so I took it. The first thing I did when I got back is I tore the monitors out of them. Unfortunately, one of them had necked tube, so I couldn't use it, but the other one did work. I was able to get it running, and so that one went into my other arcade game. The next thing I did is I took the other cabinet, because this was the better of the tube, and I stripped everything out of it, and I sold it as a bare shell to a guy who used it to make a multicade. I got 120 bucks when I did that, so I had about 30 bucks into the monitor that I put into my other arcade game, as well as all the parts I had remaining. So really, I had enough parts to make a working arcade game minus a monitor for about 15 bucks. So I figured, why not put it all together and make it working? It'll be worth a little bit at least. So that's what I did. So this particular cabinet was not the complete one. It was missing the computer, and it also had what I believe to be a conversion harness of some kind. It was a lot more complicated than the harness that was in the other cabinet. So I swapped over the harness from the other cabinet to the computer, as well as any parts that happened to be in better condition. I was able to get the computer running. Unfortunately, the next problem I ran into is I didn't have the right security dongle. I had 2 security dongles. I believe it was for Championship 3 and Team Challenge, but the computer was running Championship 1, I believe it was. So since it didn't have the right security dongle, it would load, but it wouldn't let you play the game. Luckily, Global VR is actually extremely helpful when it comes to technical support on these things, which is surprising since they haven't been made since like 2007. What I ended up doing is I just got all the stuff to load PGA Tour Team Challenge on it, since that's the newest one that they had, and I had the dongle for that. After that, the game ran fine. The next thing is I needed a monitor. Arcade monitors are not all that easy to come by, and they tend to be a bit pricey when you find them. This game is ideal for a LCD conversion because it has a VGA out and a DVI out, so pretty much you can just plug it right into any monitor. So this is the one I got. This is a 29-inch Samsung LCD. It's not that common of a size, but is the perfect size to fit in one of these arcade games. It's the absolute biggest you can get that'll fit in one of these. And the nice thing about that is that I don't have to add any bezel material on the sides, just on the tops and the bottoms. So you get the best look without having to like start hacking into the cabinet at all. Alright, so let's take a look on the inside, go over some of the technical stuff. Now we'll start with the monitor. I know I probably went way overboard with the mounting for this thing, but it's never going anywhere. So this isn't an ultra high-end top-of-the-line monitor. So it does have HDMI, component RCA, and coax, but it doesn't have VGA or DVI. And this computer originally outputted to the original monitor in VGA. Luckily, we'll get a light down here. Luckily, the video card not only has VGA out, but also has DVI out, so I simply used an adapter to convert from DVI to HDMI and plug the monitor in. And the nice thing about this particular monitor is that it remembers its last power state. So if you just kill the power to this game like you do with most arcade games, when you go to turn it back on, the screen will come on its own, which is really nice. Also have the remote over there just in case you need it. Back of the coin doors and the cash box, all that stuff over there, nothing really special there. So here we have the computer. It's a DFI unit. These are the computers that originally came with these games. Now what's nice about these games is that they run on Windows XP embedded and they don't have a ton of hardware locks. About the only thing that you need to keep the same is the video card and the interface card. As long as it has that, I've found that they'll run on just about any computer, at least the ones that I've tried. I've had this game running on a completely different computer and it ran just fine, no problems at all. And that's really helpful because as these computers get older, they do start to have issues, and they weren't the greatest computers to begin with. Now you can see this one actually has had some work done. You see the date on that power supply. I actually recapped the power supply and I recapped the motherboard because a bunch of the capacitors were starting to bulge and leak and I didn't want them to fail. Now if you need to reload the software on one of these games, there's 4 disks that you need to do that. Now the first they call the recovery disk, and what that does is it installs Windows XP embedded onto the computer. The next 3 are what they call game disks, and those install the actual PGA Tour game onto the computer. Now the one thing that you need to know if you're going to do that, and I had to figure this out on my own, these are not picky about what computer they run on once the software is all running, but if you go to reload the software, it really helps to have the original hardware. Now one thing I found in particular is that when you go to reload Windows XP embedded, for some reason, because of the way it's designed, it won't load on larger hard drives. It just kind of fails. So you need to be running like a 20 gig or smaller hard drive if you're trying to reload Windows XP embedded to reload the game on one of these. But once it's all loaded and everything, you can clone the hard drive, copy it to a bigger hard drive, and it'll run just the same. It doesn't care at that point. And something else that's kind of nice about the software for these games is that it doesn't have a bunch of protections or encryptions or anything like that. It's actually quite easy to modify. I haven't really played around with it a whole lot myself, but all the audio files, for example, are just standard audio files. If you want to change what sound plays for different things, all you have to do is just throw in your own sound file, rename it to what the old one was, and it'll play it. I know there was one guy on a forum I was reading, he said he wanted to play a different sound on the attract page, so we just replaced it with a song, changed the name, and it played that instead of the old attract music. So if you want to like modify them and play around with them, these are really good games to do that with. Just make sure you have a clone of the hard drive backed up before you go playing with things in case you mess something up. And that's about it for the PGA Tour arcade game. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below.